July 2025, the day the music died, the world mourns as Ozzy Osbourne, the undisputed Prince of Darkness, has died in July 2025. This day will forever be remembered as the moment heavy metal lost its greatest icon. From pioneering Black Sabbath's earth-shaking riffs to his wild solo career that defined generations, Ozzy's legacy will never fade. His final act, a historic $190 million charity concert, proved even in his last days he was still the mad genius who changed music forever. In 1982, Ozzy Osbourne bit the head off a bat on stage, a moment that became legend, but it was just one chapter in a life marked by chaos and reinvention. How does someone known for wild antics, addiction, and near-death experiences not only survive, but also become a global icon? Ozzy's journey took him from humble beginnings in Birmingham to earning a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame and double induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, first with Black Sabbath in 2006, then as a solo artist in 2024. Today we'll trace how Ozzy turned the lowest moments of addiction and exile into solo classics that sold over 100 million albums. Stick around to discover the moment that changed everything as we step into the heart of his transformation, beginning with the chaos that nearly cost him everything. The Fall, Ejection from Black Sabbath, Black Sabbath's thunderous riffs and Ozzy's haunting vocals shaped the sound of metal in the 1970s. But behind the music, Ozzy's world was unraveling. His substance abuse, missing rehearsals, arriving incoherent, sometimes not showing up at all, became impossible for the band to ignore. On stage, the chaos spilled over. There was the night he drank an entire bottle of cognac before a show and collapsed mid-performance, unable to finish. These weren't just wild stories, they were warning signs. The traits that fueled his creative fire were now threatening to burn everything down. The line between Ozzy the performer and Ozzy the person blurred until he seemed lost inside his own legend. The breaking point came on April 27th, 1979. The band convened, worn down by years of unpredictability and missed opportunities. Tony Iommi later explained, "We were fed up. He wasn't functioning anymore." That day, they handed Ozzy a plane ticket home. No ceremony, no second chances. Bassist Geezer Butler put it simply, "We told him, you're out." Ozzy's reaction was explosive. In a single moment of rage, he hurled a hotel television out the window. But the anger faded quickly, replaced by something heavier. The next morning, Ozzy woke up unemployed, unmoored, and without purpose. Years later, he would admit that he felt completely adrift, unable to imagine what came next. Isolation followed. Ozzy retreated to a hotel in West Hollywood, spending his days and nights in a haze of vodka and cocaine. He wandered the halls, haunted by the thought of Black Sabbath moving on without him. The world that had once revolved around music and touring now shrank to the silence of a darkened room and the echo of missed chances. Sharon, who would become his anchor, found him at his lowest, clutching a shotgun, rambling about ending it all. Psychologists call this a rock-bottom moment, when the consequences of addiction can no longer be denied and the future feels like a void. Yet even as Ozzy drifted further from the life he once knew, the seeds of change were quietly taking root. The chaos and despair that followed his ejection from Black Sabbath set the stage for what would become his darkest hour, a period where the party stopped being fun, and survival itself became the only goal. The darkest hour, addiction, and rock bottom. This was the period when Ozzy's addiction took over completely. After losing Black Sabbath, he spent months in a haze of cocaine and vodka, barely recognizing the days of the week. The camaraderie and sense of purpose he'd known with the band vanished, replaced by isolation and a relentless routine of self-destruction. Sharon, who was not yet his wife but already a central figure in his life, found him at his lowest, alone in a hotel room, clutching a shotgun, convinced he had nothing left to lose. The party atmosphere that had once surrounded him was gone. What remained? was a man trying to numb a pain that wouldn't go away. Ozzy's substance use spiraled to dangerous extremes. Each day brought a new combination of drugs and alcohol, cocaine, heroin, marijuana, and whatever else was available. The amounts were staggering, and the toll on his body and mind was immediate. One night, after taking a near-fatal dose of downers, he collapsed face first on the floor and stopped breathing. Paramedics managed to revive him, but the episode left lingering concerns over permanent cognitive damage. Neurologists have since noted that repeated overdoses like his can cause lasting impairment, something Ozzy would struggle with for years. His decline wasn't hidden behind closed doors. It played out in public and in the headlines, making his struggles impossible to ignore. The lowest point came when Ozzy awoke in a prison cell, unable to remember how he got there. He was told he'd been arrested for the attempted murder of Sharon, having tried to strangle her while under the influence. This was the moment that forced him to confront the reality of what his addiction had done, not just to himself, but to the person who had become his anchor. Sharon made the difficult decision to drop the charges, recognizing that the man who had hurt her was not the real Ozzy, but someone overtaken by addiction. This act of forgiveness and support became a turning point. Soon after, Ozzy received a letter from his doctor. It was blunt. If you keep drinking, you'll be dead in a year. For Ozzy, the warning cut through the fog in a way nothing else had. He later admitted, "I wasn't scared of dying, but I was terrified of living like that forever." There was no dramatic epiphany, just a decision to try sobriety for 3 months. The early days of withdrawal were brutal, shaking hands, wild mood swings, and a mind desperate for relief. Sharon helped him structure every minute, monitoring even the smallest routines to keep him from slipping back. Gradually, the numbness began to fade. Ozzy started to notice things again. The way sunlight filtered into his room, the taste of food, the sound of silence. Most importantly, music returned. Ideas for melodies and lyrics surfaced, clear for the first time in years. He scribbled down fragments that would become the foundation for something new. For the first time since leaving Black Sabbath, he found a sense of purpose that wasn't tied to self-destruction. Ozzy's next chapter wouldn't be easy, but as he began to rebuild, the chaos that nearly destroyed him was about to become the fuel for a creative rebirth, one that would surprise everyone, including himself. The Phoenix rises, launching a solo career. Ozzy's path forward took shape when he crossed paths with Randy Rhoads, a 25-year-old guitarist recently departed from Quiet Riot. Rhoads' technical skill and fresh perspective immediately stood out. During their first rehearsal, Ozzy recognized the spark he'd been missing. Their collaboration began with Goodbye to Romance, a song that nodded to Ozzy's past and hinted at a new direction. The lyrics weren't just reflective, they signaled a genuine attempt to move on. Recording Blizzard of Oz became a mission. Ozzy felt the weight of expectation and a fierce drive to prove himself in the shadow of Black Sabbath. At Ridge Farm Studios, the sessions were intense. Rhoads' relentless experimentation produced the unforgettable riff for Crazy Train, while Ozzy's vocals carried a new clarity and urgency. Sharon, managing logistics and the band's day-to-day, played a crucial role in keeping Ozzy focused. She took practical steps like locking away liquor bottles backstage, ensuring he could concentrate on the music rather than old habits. Critics braced for disaster, but what emerged was a record that exceeded every prediction. Blizzard of Oz debuted at number 21 in the US and ultimately sold over 4 million copies, earning a 4 times platinum certification. Rhoads' virtuosic solos and Ozzy's raw honesty set the album apart. Tracks like Suicide Solution didn't gloss over his struggles. They transformed them into something listeners could connect with. Rather than hide from his past, Ozzy used it as creative fuel, giving his music a depth that resonated beyond the usual boundaries of heavy metal. Touring to support the album brought new challenges. Sharon's vigilance remained vital, She kept temptations at bay while Ozzy faced crowds eager to see if he could live up to his reputation. At one show, when a fan threw a bat on stage, Ozzy simply ignored it, a small but telling act of restraint. Performing became his new ritual, helping him replace destructive habits with a sense of purpose and connection. By 1981, Ozzy had done more than survive. He had redefined himself. The success of Blizzard of Oz and his partnership with Rhodes proved he was more than just a frontman from a legendary band. This period of reinvention set the stage for everything that would follow, as Ozzy's story continued to evolve in ways no one could have predicted. The legacy, from chaos to icon. The legacy of Ozzy Osbourne is more than just a story of survival. It's an ongoing transformation that reaches far beyond the boundaries of heavy metal. In 2002, MTV introduced a new side of Ozzy with The Osbournes, a reality show that pulled back the curtain on his private life. Audiences saw the Prince of Darkness as a father and husband navigating everyday frustrations and family chaos. This glimpse into his home life didn't diminish his legend. It made him relatable and won over a new generation of fans, expanding his influence beyond music and deepening his cultural impact. Ozzy's solo career stretched across 4 decades and 13 studio albums, a feat few artists achieve. He never tried to chase trends or reinvent himself for the sake of popularity. Instead, he remained true to his sound, letting the world come to him. Albums like Black Rain in 2007 debuted high on the charts, showing that authenticity could outlast changing tastes. Ozzy's ability to acknowledge his past, sometimes with humour, sometimes with raw honesty, helped fans see him as more than just a rock star. He openly discussed his struggles with addiction and mental health, making it clear that fame didn't shield him from pain or setbacks. That willingness to be vulnerable created a bond with fans who saw their own struggles reflected in his story. Recognition followed. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inducted him twice, first with Black Sabbath in 2006, and again as a solo artist in 2024. That second induction was a milestone, confirming that his solo work stood on its own. His star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame further cemented his status as a cultural icon, a permanent tribute to his impact on music and entertainment. Even as health challenges emerged, including his Parkinson's diagnosis in 2020, Ozzy kept working. He released Patient Number 9 in 2022, which reached number 1 in the UK, marking his first solo chart topper there in over 30 years. Through it all, he stayed connected to his fans, proving that purpose and resilience could outlast even the toughest setbacks. The chaos, the reinventions, and the moments of raw honesty have shaped Ozzy's legacy into something lasting. His journey stands as proof that transformation is possible, no matter how deep the chaos. From Black Sabbath's rise to his solo reinvention, Ozzy turned self-destruction into enduring art. His journey wasn't about erasing the past, it was about reshaping it into something stronger. Even at his lowest, music remained his anchor, driving him forward when nothing else could. Decades later, his influence still spans generations. The same man who once shocked the world inspires millions with his resilience and honesty. As Ozzy himself says, "I am not going anywhere." Tell us below which part of Ozzy's story resonates most with you. What in your life could use a relentless reinvention like Ozzy's?